Once again, Isayama has made it well aware of the sacrifices and consequences for everything. The previous chapters felt like utter despair, that no hope was possible, that everyone against Eren was fighting an uphill battle. They are indeed fighting for the world, a fight that will be life-changing, one that will shape the course of Eldians, Malians, and the entire world witnessing this event unfold. Of course, it wouldn't be a climatic event without a chapter that involves everyone's life tiptoeing around the line of death. To emphasize this, what would be used is a slow and methodical buildup of personal connections to all of these amazing characters, seeing their emotions within themselves but also expressed to each other, facing the concerns and issues before ultimately deciding to move forward or not. This chapter almost ticks all the boxes for most characters, a crossroad, if you will, to show us as readers who will truly be participating in the upcoming final events. It's the biggest reason why we shift around so many different perspectives with conflicting emotions, so deeply yet so effortlessly, so quickly. It never allows you to linger on one specific character's emotions or words for too long. It moves you around to a variety of people efficiently and gives insight and overall perspective to give us a better understanding on how everyone feels. You can somewhat make a pretty good judgment on which characters are going to be getting on that plane to face Eren before they even confirm or deny it, solely based on how they react or the internal emotions they express while talking. To put simply, an overall chapter like this, with how it's structured and the things it focuses on, was probably one of the final things we needed before getting into the situation regarding Eren, regarding the rumbling, which is something you can't necessarily turn back from, something you can't change your mind for halfway. You're either all in or all out. So getting the context of character motivation and choices mixed with how they still perceive the event goes an extremely long way to finish their personal journey or arc somewhat loosely, but rather nicely. Obviously some more than others, as the second half of the chapter reminds you just how dangerous the rumbling is, if for some crazy reason you forgot between the month. And the reminder wouldn't be Attack on Titan or Isayama related if it didn't strike at the core, a character close to our hearts that has been there since the very beginning. So, with the opening out of the way, let's take a closer look at this chapter, with how it handles its characters and their emotions, but more importantly, how we say a heartbreaking goodbye to such a beloved character, one that will easily hurt your soul. To start this off, I want to give a phrase that I feel embodies the general atmosphere, characters, emotions, and decision making within this chapter. To empower the powerless. This is a feeling or something you may even come to recognize throughout reading while picking up on different interactions. The value, however, is completely different between people, with most starting at feeling powerless. However, as conversations go forward and a clearer path is understood for their own desires, it starts to empower them. It starts to empower their own emotions and the things they want to do. They aren't being forced to walk down this potential one-way path or even help with stopping Eren. Instead, the liberty of freeing themselves and disconnecting from the event while finding justification fills that empowering meter. They start this off by showing us Falco's gut-wrenching reaction to the death of General Magath, his own entire family, and Liberio being destroyed. Being surrounded by Gabby and Peak and the words Falco finds himself using, you can't help but feel hopeless. You can't help but feel utterly powerless. What can truly be done and changed? What are we even supposed to do? Opening up on such a real and authentic vulnerability goes a long way in fueling the chapter within the background. You probably won't reflect on that opening conversation by the end of it, but it undoubtedly done a very minuscule but impactful preparation for the heavier things to come. Simply put, it's holding your hand while you walk into the water before you fall within the deep end. Because immediately after this, you have a rather thought-provoking conversation between Mikasa and Annie, re-clarifying a perspective and contextual emotions from the previous chapter's conversation between Annie and Armin. For me, I personally loved Annie's self-realization and the conclusion she came to, how open she was talking about her feelings, while also providing a real perspective that questions the life after these events, expressing the Eldians within Mali have been oppressed by that humanity ever since they were born, even slightly framing Mali as indirect protectors or even a middle point between paradise, Eldians, and the hatred of the entire world. It's a valuable understanding for such a complex and multi-layered situation, one that has so many endless ideas, viewpoints, conflicting morals, the list goes on. You can see why she's tired. She's mentally uncertain and exhausted, which directly makes her will to fight almost non-existent. Instead, her personal choice leads her down the line of being peaceful, expressing that she can't fight anymore. And the way it's framed over Armin and the context for the previous conversation they had and his admission of love for her is a beautiful thing. For such a strong and prominent woman that has been fighting for so long, that has been husked and emotionally hollow since her upbringing, seeing her flustered, caring, and deciding her own fate is an incredibly powerful thing. It's something she's never really had before, and basically brings her character full circle to a nice neat conclusion. She even spins it back on Mikasa in questioning what she's going to do with Eren, even pointing out the fact that she doesn't wear the scarf anymore. For the people looking for that final piece of Mikasa, this is the opening context for it, as the events obviously lead her and Armin towards Eren, which is a very strong desire to emotionally connect to him and potentially bring him back. So it should be something to look forward to regarding her. From here, there is a nice chunk of information provided by Yelena regarding Eren and where he will focus his next attack, which gives everyone that's about to embark on this one-way trip a legitimate destination. A lot of different perspectives and understanding on the situation between characters, but one that stands out the most is the subtle shift in spotlight towards Hanji. Yelena mentions to everyone that they should please admit that Zeke's plan was never wrong, and that euthanasia would have been a better solution compared to the current disaster right now. While everyone wears the same expression and some sort of complex agreement with whatever justification and understanding they want to uphold, Hanji takes a frontal approach and outright agrees with the statement, saying that Eren did not present any solutions, no hope, and not a future for any of them. While this can definitely be true, the answers and results are never that simple. The mindset Eren has right now and what he wants to achieve is inherently volatile and unpredictable. We all have an understanding which involves the destruction of the world, but the path he chose to get into that mindset, potentially reverting himself back into a childlike state to be able to bear the consequences of his actions more easily from an ignorant perspective, one that's filled with overbearing emotions and knowledge unobtained, makes the interjection of Armin and Mikasa on a personal level all the more unpredictable, all the more powerful, which entails Eren also leading down a path of unpredictable interactions and responses, if broken through to. To be honest, I'm really glad they brought up Zeke's plan. Feel a lot of us wanted that acknowledgement at least in the slightest, so to have a full open agreement from it was a nice thing to finally see. The remainder of the information before the shift within the chapter comes in the form of Gabby and Falco being locked up and not participating in the final fight, everyone checking equipment and preparing themselves mentally and physically before leaving. Seeing Levi struggle to hold his weapons is honestly kind of sad. A nice heartwarming apology and goodbye between Annie and Reiner, which was surprising but beautifully handled. And then a eerily direct focus on Hanji, questioning Armin and his importance to not only the story but the future of Eldians, her joking about riding on the Car Titan's back, and then a sorrowful red flag that puts Hanji high on the chopping block, with her talking to Levi, reflecting on her dead comrades and if they could hold their own heads high in their presence, to be potentially proud of how far they've come and what they're going to do. Because of this, Levi makes a strong connection between Hanji and Commander Erwin. This focus on Hanji, which is slightly melancholic for good reason, is extremely important because this is where the chapter shifts, where the beginning of the end truly starts to kick off, one with an impact that will be felt to the core. So Flunk is alive. No, not very surprising, but I give him props for anchoring himself onto the plane they were towing behind the boat and getting dragged all the way. Of course, he brings a new hurdle, which is holes within the plane they're about to use to fly to Eren, but he ultimately meets his demise rather quickly by the hands of Mikasa. What's interesting about this, however, is the contrast to perspective he gives towards Eren, and how it makes the previous statement by Yelena and Hanji towards Zeke's plan all the more valuable. In his final words, he begs everyone not to go, saying everyone will die, saying that our devil, that's our only hope. Seeing Hanji also agree with this statement in itself goes a long way in realizing how open she is towards seeking a beneficial future through multiple different lenses, ones where she can meticulously break down different viewpoints and hopefully reach a better conclusion. At this point, everything starts to crumble in front of them as a large amount of wall titans start to approach their location and destroy everything in their path. Now, to buy a little time for everyone to fix the plane and escape, Hanji takes responsibility and decides to attack the wall titans head on, hoping to stop at least some of them before she meets her demise. However, her final words and send-off is both heartbreaking and inspiring, feeling that meter of powerlessness that everyone felt and finally being in a position she can uphold and be empowering within. She even makes Armin the 15th commander, which is something I didn't think we would actually get, but this reiterates that her faith is fully within him, which directly reiterates our faith in him for being a person that will save humanity, that his time will come. The last section with Hanji and Levi was also phenomenal, seeing how well she held herself but slowly starting to crack under the pressure of knowing she's going to die, to Levi's beautiful response of dedicate your heart, which completely brings her clarity and sends her off on such a powerful note. Mix that with her final words of Titans have always been so cool is enough to completely break you and bring a clean-cut ending to such a potent and memorable character. Seeing her fight these massive wall titans one by one before eventually getting overwhelmed by the pure heat and falling to her death while on fire. True warrior that fought till the end and sacrificed it all to save her friends. Seeing everyone's reactions as they fly off in the distance and witnessing Hanji falling honestly makes you cry, especially Levi's simple but heavy words and expression. As the final panel we see is her waking up to see Commander Owen and everyone else that has passed away. Even a tiny glimpse of Sasha in the background behind everyone, telling her that she's done a good job, that the plane managed to escape with everyone, and that they will listen to her story, bringing such an emotional experience to a tear-filled conclusion. To be honest, the ending for this chapter wasn't shocking. It wasn't used with the intention of shock value. Instead, it was masterfully crafted to give an incredible character such a meaningful send-off in all the right ways, to sacrifice and pave a path to a better future, a future she believes everyone will be able to achieve, and a story she will be able to tell to Owen and everyone else surrounding her. To bring this video to a conclusion, let me know how you felt about the chapter. How did you react towards Hanji meeting her conclusion? I'd really love to hear your thoughts. But I want to thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Drink plenty of water, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.